All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Coffee with Chris. Thank you for joining us. And we use this platform to try to provide you with as much free information as possible, both on the legal side and from a healthcare advocacy perspective. And today, I have the pleasure of having Katie Knook on our live webinar, or not webinar today, but live chat, Coffee with Chris. And we're gonna have a dementia conversation and things to look out for. Katie is a certified dementia practitioner. So Katie, if you don't mind, we'll let you start and give us a bit of your background and what you're doing currently.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. So I started in the healthcare field in some home care, and I got to see a lot of the beginning stages of dementia when we all try to see how we can make things work at home, maybe when we're starting to see those signs and how it's starting to interfere a bit with the daily functioning. And then from there, I actually went to an all memory care assisted living where I got to see, as the disease progresses, different signs and symptoms that come along and different treatment options available, and how to kind of adapt in life when living with someone with dementia. And then from there, I was there for about 5.5 years, and then I got to join Chris and his team here at Bratton Law Group, and able to see it in all different aspects, some in crisis, some just planning, and different stages that they're in, and being able to lend the advice on from what my knowledge is on living with dementia.
You are an ECC, which is an elder care coordinator. You are also a certified dementia practitioner. Can you tell everybody exactly what that entails, both the ECC and the CDP, and kind of what your role is with those designations?
Sure. So for the elder care coordinator, the main word that comes to mind with that role is advocate. We really work on healthcare advocacy, making sure that we are able to find the right resources and the right healthcare options for someone that's going through these difficult times. Some are maybe just starting the journey and trying to make sure different documents are in order, and we're really focusing on that legal side. And so then at that point, I'm able to start that conversation with them about what would happen down the road, and maybe get some of that advanced planning done. But a lot of times we also get people that come in and really need that ECC or that elder care coordinator's advocacy in looking for different options of care, home care, adult day programs, assisted livings, and all different aspects of it. And then bringing in my role of the certified dementia practitioner, and again, with the background that I have with dementia, it really helps with trying to research the options and knowing that everything is very different as far as signs and symptoms for everyone, and knowing how to adapt and take those needs and filter it into a great plan through end of life.
Right, that's great. So you provide a lot of guidance to the families.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know if it's just whether differences in behavior or maybe some slight memory loss? How do you know the difference between just normal signs of aging and dementia?
So when it comes to the difficulty with memory, thinking, social skills, everything in their daily life, you'll start to see different signs. There's all different types of dementia, and every platform has its own signs and symptoms, but a lot of them cross and intersect. So when someone's beginning those stages, and maybe you're on the lookout looking for a spouse or a parent, and you're starting to see some changes. One of the best examples I use between normal aging and dementia is, we've all walked out of the house without our purse, without our keys, without our wallet. We walk out, we run out the door, we get halfway down the road and realize, I didn't bring my wallet, I don't have it, or my phone. Nowadays, we can't go anywhere without the phone. So if you go back into your home and you're able to find your phone there, or your keys on the table, and you say, oh, right, I left them right here, I got them ready to come and I left them. That is not dementia. If you go back into the house and it turns out the only place your phone is in the freezer or behind the bread in the pantry, that's where those signs are coming in, that your mind was somewhere else and it's taking you to a whole new level and it's interfering with that daily functioning. So we never want somebody, a lot of times dementia is related to age. We don't want somebody to hit the age of 70 and suddenly think, oh my goodness, I forgot a scarf and it's 30 degrees out. I must have dementia. Or for a brief second, we forget our grandchild's name or what age they are or the school that they're in. That's okay. That's part of normal aging. The brain slows down a little bit. We don't always have the same memory and skills. But if you're thinking about your grandchild and maybe you can't remember even that child was born or that they were even there, those are some of those signs that you want to start to look for.
Is it more of a continuous type of thing, like daily or something along those lines versus sporadic?
Yeah, you'll see in the beginning, it's always, a lot of times we establish routines. And as soon as that routine can be broken is when you'll start to see more and more of those signs. You get up every day, you shower, you put the same lotion on, use the same gel in your hair, you do all of that. But let's say one day you go to get up and the hot water is not working. And now you're going to get that shower and it's not working. You might start to see those different signs of daily functioning, not difficulty because your regular routine isn't there. So although with dementia, it can be difficult to diagnose, especially in the beginning with those early signs, we want to make sure we're looking out for those. And if you do feel that confusion or a complete blank thought when you're in the middle of that, or if you're talking with somebody and you're realizing it more for them, always try and see if you can go out and seek, a different opinion from a medical professional.
Okay. Now, what are the most common types of dementia that people will come across? And are there any specific signs that are related to each?
So yeah, there's over 400 types of dementia. But there are 4 very common types. A lot of you have maybe heard of them. Alzheimer's disease being the #1 most common. I think that's how everybody sees it. A lot of people think that Alzheimer's disease and dementia are 2 separate things, but really that dementia is the umbrella, and underneath of that are these different types of dementia. Alzheimer's disease being the most common, then you have vascular, Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal dementia. So some of the different symptoms that you can see with this they really can go all across the board, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're looking for certain things that help the diagnosis. So with Alzheimer's disease, you're going to see emotional and personality changes and also the memory loss. Vascular, you might see an unsteady gait and restlessness and agitation. Lewy body, you're going to see visual hallucinations, maybe delusions. A lot of people talk about those very vivid dreams where people are acting out in their sleep. It's called REM sleep, and that rapid eye movement where they're not really getting that full sleep and they're acting out due to vivid dreams going on in their mind. That usually is associated with Lewy bodies. And then for frontal dementia, you want to look at movement disorders, speech and language changes. And again, Chris, just really quick, that there is never one symptom that only relates to a certain dementia. They can all crossbreed and kind of go all over. So any of these signs and symptoms, the #1 thing is to just start getting that help and looking into it, no matter what type of dementia it is.
So if you do start to see some of these signs, what are your next steps? Are you trying to seek out some medical advice? How do you start to adapt? How does, if you have a loved one at home, whether it's a spouse or a child or someone, and then, how are they now incorporated into this, and what can they do to assist?
Yeah, so once you seek out maybe some medical advice and start learning that you're going to need to start the process and looking at what next steps are coming, the best thing to do, and anybody that knows me knows I use this term a lot, and I think it's actually one of the most important and key things when finding out someone has dementia is moving forward, is to start building your village. family, friends, neighbors, support groups, medical professionals, trusted healthcare professionals. You need to make sure you're starting to build a network and a support group. The caregiver burnout is real. It might start out simple where it's just some reminders or changes in your own routines. But ultimately it's going to be a struggle. And the hardest part is that communication that you've had with that loved one is now no longer going to be really that option for you. So you want to reach out to your families, neighbors, start asking for certain favors that maybe they'd be able to help with, and letting them know what's going on so that it's not such a surprise and they can help to adapt and learn with you. There are tons of different support groups out there. Alzheimer's.org, or I think it's alz.org, has a list of all different support groups in our area. And they can also provide specific groups for different diagnoses. So you can look at somebody that maybe has early onset, that affects a very small amount of that population, but I feel like it's growing. So, what you're going through might not be the same as someone who's going through it with an elderly parent. So being able to find a specific support group to help build that network and build your village is really important. They have Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and then vascular dementia support groups, all different types. And then they can even break it down to spouses of loved ones with dementia, or support groups just for the adult children, where they usually try to provide some education as well.
That's a good point, being able to go out and get that help. I think a lot of people try to take it all on their own and shoulder that burden. And like you said, the caregiver burnout is real. I spoke with a client 2 days ago, and it's a daughter, and she is just to the point, she said, I can't take it anymore. She's taking care of mom and dad. She has a spouse at home. She has children at home. She has a full-time job. So you're kind of burning the candle at both ends. And it's better to get that plan in place and get that assistance in place ahead of time so that you're not burnt out at the very last moment and just to the point where it's just breaking you.
Yeah.
So we're not in our quote unquote normal times now. Everyone is sheltering in place. We don't know exactly when everything's going to be lifted. How do you, during these times, get out to see your medical professionals or join those support groups? How do you get the help with the current state of affairs?
So one of the things that we actually have going for us, and I think for years we've been calling it our downfall, but the one thing we have is technology, that I think years ago, if this were to happen, it might have been easier for us to shelter in place and do all of that. But now that we at least have these options, being able to do teledoc visits and talking with your physician as you and I are talking now, to be able to go over certain things, virtual support groups, all different trusted professionals are still out there. One of the things that we encounter a lot in our group and that I really go through is right now people that still need care. They still need care options. They don't know what to do. They're in this crisis mode on top of being in a pandemic. So they need to go to an assisted living, maybe from a rehab, and they need to send someone there. And they're like, I've never even stepped foot in it. How do I know it's the right place, and how do we go about this? And that's, again, where building that village and your trusted professionals, that's where it's going to help you. If you can start that preparation early, making your phone calls now, if you're starting to see problems or difficulties coming from your loved one, don't wait until the crisis moment is hitting. As Chris can attest to as well, that is a constant of what we get, calls coming in saying, okay, now they need an assisted living. I never thought it was going to get to this. I thought I was always going to be able to care for them at home. And then it turns out they had a series of mini strokes, and now they not only need assisted living, they need memory care, they need, maybe even more medical support. How do I even go about that? And now we're trying to look at it in this realm, and it's even harder. But a lot of our partners out there are doing a lot of great things. They're doing video tours, they're doing FaceTime calls, different ways to try and stay connected. I think, you know, the funniest thing is we talk about not being able to stay connected with people. But right now, I feel like in the past few weeks, I've done nothing but learn different platforms to stay connected,
Right.
whether it's Zoom or Skype or Teams and Facebook, House Party, all these different options on how to do it. So find out what's going to work for you. And then ask those trusted professionals what they can do to help, because they're working with it. It's all uncharted waters for us, but being able to get that plan in place before that crisis hits is probably the most important. And I think the pandemic is a really good sign of what we need to do in the future.
Right, exactly. So we do have people registered and are live on with us. So if anyone has any questions as we're moving along, please feel free to answer it or ask those questions in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those. But yeah, I think people, you know, ideally everyone would like to stay at home. You know, ideally no one would ever get sick, no one would have dementia,
Yeah.
those things. But you know, the reality is it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of the things that I think is important is to just make sure that you have a plan in place. Don't
Mm-hmm.
wait until it's too late. Figure out what your options are. If you know, Katie, like you said, if you do start to see signs at that point, figure out what your options are, what you're able to do. What is the cost of care going to be? If you have someone coming into the house, what's that cost going to be? If you have to go somewhere, you have to plan. I mean, you know, as you go through life, you have a job, you're working, you're saving, you have some type of goal to save for retirement. You need to continue that on and figure out how you're going to pay for cost of care, because it is definitely a reality. Everyone is living longer. Medical care is getting better. We're living with these diseases. The cost is going to be there, and it's going to be greater than I think anyone really expects.
Yeah, and I think one of the scariest things is the fact that I think their predictions by 2050 is the senior population is supposed to triple, which to me is just overwhelming. You know, we're still getting calls every day in these crisis moments and all of these things. And I still think it's still such an unthought about process. You know, we all know we're going to age. We all make sure that we have the right wrinkle cream in place, and we have all of these other things there just to make sure we're not aging. But eventually it comes, and sadly for many, that moment to be able to take a handle on those situations and really it's maintaining your independence by planning so that things happen your way and not on the way of someone else. It's either, you know, someone else gets their hands on it. It's either a child that's going through the burden of now having to make decisions for you, or the state telling you exactly what you need to do because of, you know, your financial situation or your legal situation. Getting guardianships, you know, doing all this, it takes time, it takes money, and it's just things that we didn't plan for. And everybody always, you know, the famous line is, I just didn't think this was going to happen. And I can guarantee you right now, something will happen. Maybe you'll be able to get by and, you know, ride off into the sunset and be able to kind of go that way. But most times it doesn't. So making sure that you come up with a plan is most important.
Yeah, there's a study done for those individuals that reach age 65. There's a 40% chance you're going to need skilled, so nursing home. And there's a 70% chance that you're going to need some form of long-term care, whether that's skilled, whether that's in-home care, whether that's assisted living. So, you know, the chances are real, and everyone needs to plan for that. And even on, you know, the legal side, certainly the financial cost is very high, but you can do little things on the legal side just to make sure that you're prepared with a power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, your will. Don't leave that to where you have nothing in place and now the children are trying to go to court to seek a guardianship. It's just much more time consuming, much more expensive, and you really don't know what the outcome is going to be. But now the decision is in the hands of a judge or someone else that may be contesting it. So those are things that we want to stay away from. To try to wrap things up, give us one piece of information or advice that you would put out there for everyone that would make their life a little bit easier or help them prepare or what have you.
Build your village. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. And like I said, those that have worked with me and know me, all the different seminars, educational things that I have ever done. When someone comes into our office, when someone used to come into the assisted living or talk to us through the home care, the one thing I hear constant is, I'm doing this by myself, or I don't know what else to do. I don't think anybody's in this situation that I'm in, and all of that. And there's always different nuances and parts of that is true, that maybe your situation might be a little different, but I can guarantee you that someone else has been through it. And until you start building that support network, and if you did move here 5 years ago from Florida and you have no family and you do not have a lot of friends or neighbors or things like that, there's people out there that can help. You know, I'm a healthcare advocate. There's plenty of me to go around, and there's plenty of people just like me. You know, I can guarantee you in our healthcare world, you reach out to one person. I could name 30 just thinking right now on all different platforms, assisted living, home care, adult day centers, different things like that. You reach out to one person, they will lead you down a road to suddenly build that village, and you'll have all the support you need.
Well, I don't know if there's anyone exactly like you, but.
Yeah, well, it's like dementia. There's just a bunch of little things like that.
And all right, where can people find you? How do they get in touch with you if they do need assistance or have questions?
I have a signal that you just throw up into the sky, and no, you can call me. You know, you can call our office, or you can call my cell phone. We can put that on the chat there, but it's 856-581-5737. You can call me if you just need to talk about your options and you want to start that research. I am happy to give that information, because that means that now we're not going to get the call and Chris doesn't yell at me to say, stop bringing in these crisis moments. And I can say, hey, someone actually reached out in the right time frame and got the information they needed. And even if it's just a call to see who they should be going to and how to start that next step. You know, you might already have your estate planning documents in order and all of that, and you just need to know what options are out there for care. You know, there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of government funding out there that really is untapped that we don't, you know, we all know about Medicare, Medicaid, all of these things, but there's county programs, there's township programs, there's state programs that can be out there to help with this type of situation, respite care and short-term options that are there. So again, if you start building that village, you'll be able to really know what you're doing, and then you don't feel that burnout as much because it's not crisis after crisis.
Right. So you can find Katie at brattonlawgroup.com or 856-857-6007. But certainly reach out to somebody if you need some assistance. Just get that healthcare advocacy help, help build that village, right? Get your support. Get your legal affairs in order, reach out to someone just to know what your options are. Again, we thank you for joining us. Thank you, Katie. Thanks to everyone else for tuning in, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you.